advanced demand management and just speak just for a moment to the challenges. So there are a lot of challenges because if you think about it, traditionally controlling generation to respond to changing demand, in a sense, is a simpler challenge because you may have just a few dozen, perhaps, fleet of generators that you can adjust to meet demand. But in this case, we're talking potentially about thousands of discrete demand units. If it's an electric vehicle, that's one car battery. If it's an air conditioner, that's one air conditioner. And of course, that can scale up to larger scales for commercial buildings and industrial installations, but it's still a really challenging problem to integrate and coordinate all of the resources and to develop the correct or the appropriate services, regulations, contracts, communication protocols is a large challenge. Okay, so I'm going to speak now. I don't know how much time is left.
You should probably be wrapping up.
Okay, I will try to wrap up in 2 or 3 minutes if that's okay.
That'd be perfect.
Okay, thank you. Sorry for going over time. So I just wanted to mention 3 or 4 interesting research activities and findings at the lab at Lawrence Berkeley National Lab. The first, which many of you are probably aware of, is the demand response, a large demand response potential study led by LBL for the CPUC, which I think was released phase 1 in 2017. So that is only going through 2025, but it is a very instructive study for the types of resources which are available for demand response today. The second study I wanted to mention was an EV coordination, a smart charging study led by Sam Saxena at the lab, which was quantifying the potential for the coordinated charging, V1G charging of a fleet of electrical vehicles. So with a fleet of 500,000 BEVs and 1 million PHEVs, it was shown that the fleet of electric vehicles provides the renewable integration capabilities equivalent to about 1 gigawatt of stationary storage, or that's very close to the AB 2014 target. So it's a large potential resource, and of course it's a challenge to coordinate them. Third one is a very similar study we did for hydrogen resources. So you can think of a large fleet of hydrogen vehicles in the future, hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, which are fueled by renewably produced hydrogen, which is produced by electrolysis and renewable energy. And using similar concepts of having a flexible load, flexible controllable load, but this time for large electrolysis systems, hydrogen resources can also provide net load support, which can bring, in our model, 2025 net load ramp up rates back to 2014 levels. So there's potential for hydrogen, flexible hydrogen resources as well, assuming that there's a demand for hydrogen. The last 2 points I wanted to make are regarding energy supplies, and these are projects which are both supported by the CEC EPIC program. The first was a study, and this was under one of my funded projects that was done by Rebecca Hernandez and Madison Hoffaker, then at UC Berkeley. And they really looked at the potential for solar PV and concentrated solar production in the Central Valley. And it wasn't just in the Central Valley writ large, but it was looking specifically at challenged lands, which are, not challenged lands, but non-traditional lands, so not prime agricultural lands. So the built environment, salt-affected lands, environmentally degraded lands, and water reservoirs. And not unexpectedly, there's a huge solar resource in the Central Valley just on land types. It's about 13 times higher than the total anticipated demand in 2025 for solar PV, and at least double that for CSP. My last point, and sorry for going on long, is that in a previous study in 2014, we also showed or modeled the potential for biomass with carbon capture and sequestration, so biopower with carbon capture. And with this technology, though unproven, there's the technical potential for a carbon negative electricity system. So I just wanted to say that that is also something which is technically possible. And as we really try to push hard on the electricity system, and we're finding it hard and very challenging to fully decarbonize other sectors, we may need all of these options to consider all of these options. So thank you again.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wei. Next, we hear from Jennifer Chamberlain, California Efficiency Demand Management Council.
Thank you, Assemblymember Quirk and committee members, for having me participate today. I need to get very close to the microphone and keep it off my notes at the same time.
And is it working?
You tell me. I think that it is. Okay. So thank you for having me here today. I'm here as a member of the council, as a board member of the council, and also as a representative of my company, CPower. We're a demand management and demand response company serving primarily commercial and industrial loads around the country. And what we do is work closely with our customers to help them manage their energy spend and to participate in markets to provide grid services. Capacity curtailment is a very traditional mechanism we use today, but in some markets with certain customers, we're also providing other reliability services, kind of ancillary services, regulation, and flexibility services. Today, Max explained a little bit about what demand management looks like today, and I think that we have historically played a role in reliability. Shed DR, as we see it, has helped avoid shutdowns during the polar vortex and during wildfires to kind of keep the grid stable. But it's been our biggest DR resource. We started moving towards other rate classes and other programs that are starting to integrate demand response and load management as a resource on par with others within the CAISO market economically. That's been something that has been desirable and something we've seen in a lot of other regions around the state to kind of really think about how load can participate in balancing against supply. Good starting point, but it's not where we need load management and demand management to be to meet climate goals 10 or 15 or 20 years from now. As Max said, right now our supply tends to follow demand, and we're really probably going to have to enter a paradigm shift where, at least partially and potentially fully, demand's going to have to follow supply, and that's going to take a big paradigm shift. We'll need our loads to provide what we tend to think of as flexibility services. All the ways that you can keep a grid reliable with intermittent renewables, lots of them, and a diverse portfolio of them obviously provides a more reliable set than only one type from only one place. You get some diversity that's important. But we look at this and say, how do you get from where you are today, where we have some customers participating in curtailing loads where they're needed, to a place where many, if not most customers, are willing to participate in shifting loads in the ways that Max had shared? And how do we get them to harness the distributed energy resources that are starting to come on the grids? So we have this kind of vision about how we get there, but it honestly is going to be iterative, interactive, and an educational process for customers. We have to get customers engaged in this process. If we want a resource to be there, we kind of have to start today. An engaged customer will do more. We want to sensitize them to pricing and to grid impacts of what they do, particularly as they start having EV charging and deploying batteries and solar resources. Those can be very helpful or actually kind of harmful in terms of the overall grid reliability, depending on how they utilize them. We've noticed that an engaged customer will do more. It can be really hard to get a customer for the first time, whether it be a C&I customer or a residential customer, to say, I'm opting in, I'm going to participate. But once they do, you can take them kind of on a journey. We can build on their engagement and say, okay, you may be able to do some simple turning off your lights, a simple AC adjustment to participate in demand response as we see it today. But we found with our engaged customers that they're willing to do more. They'll implement more and more building automation systems. They'll allow some direct load control. And, I want to say that, kind of getting customers engaged, most of ours that are engaged, and we work with tens of thousands of customers at millions of sites across the country, a lot of them do it out of a sense of altruism for the grid. They want to be a part of a solution, a part of a sustainable future. And so, there's a question mark. A lot of people say customers won't engage, and I think they will. So we'll work through them to have more and more advanced solutions, and that's how we've taken customers that used to just curtail loads and had moved some of them into delivering ancillary services in PJM. A lot of these are bigger industrial customers, but with the advent of faster automation and things like battery storage, even smaller customers are starting to be able to participate in these markets where permitted, and where the market signals are appropriate. Those are really important. There are a lot of, as I said, there are a lot of resources being deployed. I think we've touched on many of them today. Microgrids, solar and storage combos, EV charging, both in homes and in workplaces, and kind of the Internet of Things as more and more things are connected. I know in my home, I can turn all kinds of things on and program them not to run to avoid my TOU rates. I'm an engaged customer. Obviously, I'm early in that curve. But as you work with them, you understand the value of how pre-cooling can work and shift some of those loads in a big way. We're seeing for the first time, the Cal ISO at the board level has approved a program that will now be moving to FERC for approval and then implementation to allow battery storage to formally shift load and bid, I think first in the country, consumption into the grid to help soak up from a market signal some of those excess renewables in the middle of the day. So we do see renewable curtailment, and as we see additional penetration, there's going to be a lot more of that. We want to see in a next phase, and we've been working at the CPUC on load shift programs to offer up into a new proceeding how other kinds of loads could also help consume those renewables and shift those loads. From an R&D perspective, I know we're piloting what our current loads and technologies can do. And we know technologies are sprouting faster than we can even think of them. But as I look at this, and because I know we're time sensitive, I want to say, there are some hurdles to getting loads in. I think there's a huge amount of capability and potential in customers. The LBNL study showed, even with no additional technologies, gigawatts and gigawatts of loads that can be flexible. But we have to harness them. One of the things we need to do is plan for that. Right now, ESP, CCA, IOU loads are planned for, and they're, all of the procurement targets are set based on the IPER studies out of the CEC, the Integrated Energy Resource Planning Studies, that haven't shown any growth in demand management. There's a lot of energy efficiency baked in there, and those are continued to grow. But in terms of load management itself, we haven't seen any growth in those. If we don't plan for it in our studies up front, when it gets time for there to be procurement, we'll say there's no need, and we'll have really left what I think is a very valuable resource on the table. And we need to start that somewhat today. Right now, we're looking at demand response at the commission and saying, should we be procuring more of it? And everyone says there's no need. And so if this is our problem now, we need to start planning for there to be need and have this be the resource that fills it. We also have challenges in the markets. The CAISO needs to see what's happening on the grid in order to have there be reliability. And as we discussed, Max discussed, we're used to having a few large central station plants instead of zillions of distributed resources. One customer, one battery, one air conditioner is not going to be able to, even the most engaged one, have a 24/7 duration the way a baseload power plant might. What the market has to be able to do is Tetris those resources together and have shorter duration resources available at different times, both consuming the renewables we have, shifting loads, and saving for discharge later on the battery front. Or on the thermal storage, I think we have to remember that thermal storage is as important as chemical, electronic, and kind of water-based storage. There's a lot of load shifting that can happen that way. And we do need some changes to the ISO market. It's slow, and as someone who is integrating demand response into that market today, it is a round peg in a square hole. I think I say a lot, please don't make me pretend to be a generator, because I'm not, but I have lots of capabilities. So I think that there are changes that need to be there. The other big challenge is on rate design issues.
If you could take about 1 minute to wrap
Absolutely.
up. Thank you.
That's where I am. On rate design issues, shifting loads affects where customers are, and how it affects their demand charges, how it affects kind of the whole system. So I think to support all of this, we want to look to the future and make sure there's a plan on load management being part of the solution. Loads are what use the resources, create the demand. We want to harness them and make sure they're behaving in ways that work for us. We think it may make sense to have there be making and meeting procurement targets that we plan for. We've done that with EE, we've done it with renewables, we've done it with storage, and had incredible success stories. This is something I think we should be taking into account. How do we bring this resource along the same way we've brought the others and allow it to be a part of the future? Thank you very much.
Thank you. So then we have Colin Kushney, Vice President of Power Supply at Southern California Edison. I've been down to your research facility, and I know how hard you are working to meet our challenges.
Yeah, thank you very much, Assemblymember Quirk, and esteemed guests. We appreciate being invited here today on this very important conversation. So I think it goes without saying that SB 100's 100% carbon-free energy goal by 2045 is an extremely lofty objective. That's going to require significant planning and commitment by California's policymakers, our elected officials, our regulators, our industry players, and very importantly, California's populace to achieve. So Californians need to embrace this. But I would contend that our first step to getting to 100% carbon-free by 2045 is to actually meet California's 2030 policy goals. You can't get to 100% carbon-free until you get to maybe 80% carbon-free. And our 2030 policy goals are well understood, right? We're trying to reduce carbon emissions across the state by 40% compared to 1990 levels. As things stand today, California's CO2 emissions are approximately the same level as 1990 levels, at a little over 400 million metric tons. That means in the next 11 years, it's no longer a planning exercise, it's the real deal. In the next 11 years, we have to reduce our entire emissions by 40%. This would be an incredible feat, and it's only going to happen if California establishes a clear, integrated, and enforceable plan for success. So Edison published a plan a little over a year ago that identified what we conceived to be the lowest cost and most probable path to achieve a 40% reduction. We referred to it as the Clean Power and Electrification Pathway. I'll refer to it as the Pathways Analysis. In our Pathways Analysis, we identified that the electric grid needs to be served at least with 80% clean energy. We also identified that we need to electrify approximately 25% of our cars and light trucks. That's about 7 million vehicles in 11 years. And we significantly need to increase the electrification of buildings with respect to space and water heating. So how do we get to 80% clean energy sector by 2030 while making sure that electricity remains reliable and affordable for all customers? And it's really important to emphasize reliable and affordable, right? Because if it's not reliable, folks are not going to be really keen on our policy objectives.
Yeah, and that is included in SB 100. It must be reliable, and the cost change must be de minimis.
Yes. And affordability will be key for folks to be willing to adopt electric vehicles. It has to be a demonstrated economic benefit to them, as well as electrifying buildings. So what needs to happen on our grid to get there? So let me talk about physically what we need to do, and then if I have a little bit of time left over, just what I see as our regulatory and planning construct challenges. So physically, we need to double the amount of installed renewable generation capacity on our system. That's about 16,000 megawatts of new renewables. To put that into context, the total system today has about 80,000 megawatts, and so you would go from about 17,000 megawatts of renewables up to 34,000. A doubling of our renewable generation fleet will result in California receiving a little more than 60% of its energy from renewable sources. Today it's around 30%. We would still need to rely on large hydro. We would really have to ramp up our DSM program efforts and use smart technology there. We would still need to use out-of-state nuclear. Edison still has 600 megawatts of out-of-state nuclear, which is a key contributor to carbon-free energy. We're going to have to add at least 10,000 megawatts of energy storage to the system beyond what's already planned to be able to integrate the renewables. Dr. Wei walked through that, so I don't need to go through that. But it goes well beyond load ramping and or load following and ramping. It also would support frequency on the electric system to keep the system balanced at all time. But energy storage by itself can't solve all the problems. Today is a great example. We have a rain system across California. The last rain system we had that I looked at reduced our solar output by about 75%. So if you're relying extensively on solar, and you lose 75% because of a storm system. Those battery systems that we use today are generally 4-hour battery systems, and so you're only going to get so far with those. So we do want to encourage California to not view natural gas-fired generation as something that must be eliminated. We should view it as a backup generator. So let's have a plan that very systematically reduces our use of natural gas, ideally has no natural gas burned, but that we can still burn on rainy days or during large contingency events like losing transmission facilities to keep the grid reliable. Failing to do that will have a huge backlash. And finally, we need to modernize our demand response programs. The earlier panelists talked about on that briefly. Edison's proud to say that Edison has developed more than half the demand response programs that the CAISO currently uses. But we do need to move them from sort of peak shaving in the midday period where there's already a lot of solar, and we need to leverage smart technology like smart thermostats, smart appliances, where we can seamlessly adjust customers' usage, change the cycling of their equipment, where they don't even know it's happening, but it could provide a tremendous amount of very resilient and reliable demand response at very little cost. So those are some of the things that we need to do to get to certainly 80% clean energy, and we